There's a moment, right before a house settles for the night, when everything goes unnervingly still. No pipes, no hum, no wind outside. Just a silence so heavy it feels like the walls are waiting for you to exhale first. That was the moment I realized I wasn't alone in my childhood home. If you're here, lean in. Let's step into the kind of night that doesn't leave you the same. I moved back into my childhood house for a few weeks, just to watch it while my mom visited relatives out of state. I thought staying there alone would feel nostalgic or maybe even peaceful, but the first night proved otherwise. Something felt off. Not haunted, not dangerous, just watchful. Like the house remembered more about me than I remembered about it. The weirdness started small. A picture frame I was sure I'd left straight suddenly angled toward the hallway. A kitchen chair slightly pulled out when I knew I'd pushed all of them in. The living room felt colder than the rest of the house, like an invisible draft kept coiling around my legs. I brushed it off. Houses breathe, right? Especially old ones. But at 3:14 a.m., the house did something it never used to do when I lived there. It started pacing. Not footsteps, just weight. A slow, deliberate creaking traveling from one room to another, pausing in the doorway of each like something was memorizing the layout. I sat up in bed frozen. I didn't hear breathing, didn't see shadows, but the air had that pressure. That someone is standing right behind you pressure. I told myself it was just wood expanding. But wood doesn't pause. Wood doesn't hesitate like it's thinking. By the fourth night, sleep was a joke. I was running on caffeine and nerves, and the edges of reality felt soft, bendable. I started catching things in reflections. A shape in the window behind me that wasn't in the room. A shadow moving while I stood still. And then a memory hit me, hard. When I was a kid in that same house, I used to talk to someone. Not a real person, an imaginary friend, according to my mom. A presence I felt more than saw. A presence that loved when I was alone. I'd forgotten all about it. And I think it hated being forgotten. On the seventh night, the house crossed a line. The door to the guest bathroom slammed shut behind me, locking on its own. Lights flickered. The air turned icy. I stood there in total darkness, heart pounding so loud the sound felt physical. That's when it came back. That childhood voice in my memory, whispering my name the way only something familiar could. The truth hit me like a gut punch. This wasn't a ghost. This wasn't some intruder. It was something I created years ago. Something that never stopped growing in the empty corners of the house. A shape built from loneliness and fear, born from every night I talked to the dark and believed it listened. It didn't want to hurt me. It wanted to exist. It wanted acknowledgement. It wanted me. I left the next morning. Didn't even pack everything. But the thing is, when something grows inside you, it doesn't stay behind. Now, whenever I'm in a quiet room, whenever the air shifts just a little, whenever the silence gets too heavy, I feel it standing right behind me again. Patient. Familiar. Waiting for me to remember it fully. And the scariest part? I think it's getting closer. I'd been house-sitting for a couple I barely knew, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood where every street looked copy-pasted. Their place was newer, spotless, the kind of home that smelled like lemon cleaner and empty rooms. It felt harmless. Too harmless. The first night was normal. Quiet TV, microwave dinner, scrolling on my phone until my eyes hurt. By 2 a.m. I went to bed in the guest room. The house settled into that strange hush homes get when they shut down for the night. And then, somewhere in the walls, a whisper. Faint. Broken. Like someone talking through water. I sat up instantly. The house went silent again. I figured it was pipes, or maybe an AC vent shifting. But the whisper felt intentional, almost curious. Like someone trying to see if I was awake. By the second night, it changed. Around 1:47 a.m., the room temperature dropped so sharply I could see my breath. The whisper returned, not from inside the walls this time, but from under the bed. A slow scraping sound dragged across the wooden floorboards as something shifted its weight beneath me. It felt like the bed rose half an inch. I didn't look. I couldn't. I stayed frozen until morning, breathing so quietly it hurt. On the third night, the house started communicating, through objects, not sound. A closet door that had been shut all day now gaped open in the hallway, revealing nothing but blackness. A lamp I had turned off clicked back on by itself, flooding the room with a weak yellow glow. A stack of mail on the table spread itself into a perfect circle like someone had examined each envelope. And every night the same whisper. Closer, clearer, bolder. By night 4, sleep deprivation had me hallucinating things in the corners, shapes that disappeared when I blinked, shadows that moved without a source, reflections in the TV screen that didn't match the room behind me. But the worst was the staircase. Around 3 a.m., I heard someone climbing the steps slowly. One creak at a time. Up to the second floor. Up to the hallway. Up to the closed guest room door. The whisper wasn't coming from under the bed anymore. It was directly behind the door, breathing. I pressed my ear against the mattress and held my breath. The doorknob turned. Not fully. Just enough to let me know the house wasn't guessing where I was anymore. It knew. I stayed like that until dawn. When the light finally hit the windows, I packed everything in 5 minutes and left the key on the kitchen counter. But here's the part that keeps me up. When I got home that evening, I heard the same whisper rise from my own staircase. The same dragging scrape. The same broken breathing. The same pressure in the air. Whatever was in that house wasn't attached to the walls. It was attached to me. And I think it followed me home because now, my bed rises too. I moved into my first apartment alone, thinking independence would feel liberating. Instead, the silence was oppressive, almost suffocating. The first evening, I noticed the lights flicker in a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. I laughed at myself. Old wiring, I said, but even then, the pattern didn't feel random. It was intentional. By the second night, the pattern became more pronounced. Lights in the hallway blinked on and off when I passed, as if the house was tracking my steps. A faint scratching echoed behind the walls, like nails dragging slowly along the studs. Every time I paused, it stopped. Every time I moved, it followed. I started hearing the floors creak in the empty living room. Not in the normal way old wood creaks, but in a deliberate rhythm, like it was mimicking someone pacing. The air felt heavier, warmer, almost humid, and shadows clung to corners unnaturally, stretching toward me. On night 3, I noticed something worse. Small items began to vanish, books from the coffee table, shoes from the hallway, kitchen utensils from the drawers. Not stolen. Just gone. And occasionally, I'd see them appear in places I never put them, arranged in patterns too precise to be random. Sleep deprivation started messing with me. I could see shapes and reflections, elongated, distorted, moving slowly. Sometimes a doorway would be slightly ajar, and when I looked again, it was closed, perfectly aligned. I realized the apartment itself was breathing around me. Adjusting. Watching. Learning. Then came the whispering. Not words. Just a quiet susurration, like 1,000 tiny voices brushing the edges of my consciousness, teasing, probing. It felt almost friendly at first, familiar, until it wasn't. By night 5, it became a game. I would move across rooms slowly, holding my breath. The apartment responded, objects would shift, shadows would twist, lights would flicker in synchronization. It wasn't trying to scare me anymore. It was trying to communicate, to manipulate, to shape me. When morning came, I fled. I left the apartment, the key in the mailbox, heart racing, trembling. But that night, I realized something horrifying. Even in my own bedroom, the rhythm of lights, the whispering susurration, the shifting shadows, I could feel it following me. The house wasn't just a building. It was a presence. And when you're truly alone, it doesn't let go. The night is quiet again, but it's never truly over. Every creak, every flicker of light, every shadow lurking in the corners, They're still there, waiting for the next moment you're alone. If you felt that chill creeping up your spine, you're not imagining it. Because the silence has a way of remembering you. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed stepping into the darkness tonight. And subscribe so you don't miss the next story that'll make your home feel just a little less safe. Remember, when you're alone, it's never just you. And sometimes, what watches you is closer than you think.